Marcus stood in his empty coffee shop at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, staring at the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. 6 months ago, this place had been his dream. Now, it was becoming his nightmare. He had exactly 8 weeks of rent left in his bank account. After that, he'd lose everything. But what happened next, a chance conversation with a stranger, would completely transform not just his business, but his entire understanding of how money actually works. This is that story. Marcus was 28 when he quit his corporate job to open a coffee shop in downtown Portland. He'd saved $45,000, found a decent location, and convinced himself that good coffee would sell itself. The first week was magical. Friends came by, family stopped in. The place felt alive, but by month 2, reality hit hard. The Starbucks across the street had the morning rush locked down. The indie cafe 2 blocks over had the cool hipster crowd. And Marcus, he had 12 customers on a good day. He tried everything. Social media posts, flyers, a loyalty card. Buy 9 coffees, get the 10th free. Nothing worked. His prices were fair. $5 for a latte, $4 for drip coffee, $3 for a pastry. But fair doesn't matter when nobody's walking through the door. Marcus started cutting costs. He stopped buying fresh flowers for the tables. He reduced his hours. He even started making the pastries himself instead of ordering from the local bakery. But cutting costs only slows the bleeding. It doesn't heal the wound. By month 6, Marcus was working 14 hours, 7 days a week, and barely making enough to cover rent and supplies. He wasn't even paying himself anymore. His girlfriend Amy begged him to just close it down and get a real job again. His parents stopped asking how the business was going. They knew the answer. Late one night, sitting alone in the shop, Marcus did something he hadn't done since high school. He cried. He'd failed, and he didn't even understand why. The next afternoon, a woman in her 60s walked in. She had silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and wore a tailored blazer that looked expensive but understated. She ordered a black coffee, sat by the window, and opened her laptop. Marcus watched her from behind the counter. She stayed for 4 hours, occasionally refilling her cup. As she packed up to leave, she paused at the door and looked directly at Marcus. "You're going to close within 3 months if you keep running it like this," she said, matter-of-factly. Marcus felt his face flush with embarrassment and anger. "Excuse me?" The woman walked back toward the counter. "I'm not trying to be rude. I'm being honest. I've built and sold 4 businesses in my life. I can see the signs." She extended her hand. "I'm Elena, and if you want to save this place, I can help you. But you have to be willing to completely change how you think about business." Marcus stared at her. What did he have to lose? "Okay," he said quietly. "I'm listening." Elena smiled. "Not tonight. You're too tired to think clearly. Meet me here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your financial statements for the last 6 months." And with that, she left. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. Who was this woman? Why would she want to help him? Was this some kind of scam? But the next morning, he showed up with a folder full of spreadsheets, receipts, and his rapidly dwindling bank statements. Elena was already there, sitting at the same table, 2 coffees waiting. Elena opened her notebook and looked at Marcus with sharp, intelligent eyes. "First question," she said. "What business are you in?" Marcus frowned. "Coffee, obviously." Elena shook her head. "That's why you're failing. You're not in the coffee business. You're in the space business. You're selling time, atmosphere, community, and an experience. Coffee is just the tool you use to monetize that." She leaned forward. "Starbucks figured this out decades ago. They're not selling coffee. They're selling a third place between home and work. You're competing with them on their terms, and you'll never win that way." Marcus felt defensive. "So, what am I supposed to do differently?" Elena flipped open his financial statements. "You're thinking about each transaction. The customer buys coffee, you make $3 profit, they leave, right?" "Right." Wrong mindset. You need to think about lifetime customer value. How much is one loyal customer worth over a year? Over 5 years? She pulled out a calculator. If someone comes in 3 times a week and spends an average of $8, that's $24 a week. That's $1,248 a year. Over 3 years, that's $3,144 from one person. Marcus stared at the number. Elena continued. Now, here's the shift. What would you be willing to invest up front to acquire that customer? I don't know. Exactly. Most business owners don't think this way. They're scared to lose money on the first transaction. But if you knew you'd make $3,700 from someone over 3 years, wouldn't you spend $50 to acquire them? Marcus nodded slowly. Good. So here's strategy number 1. Starting Monday, you're offering something radical. First-time visitors get their first coffee completely free. Put a big sign in the window. Marcus felt panic rising. Free? Elena, I'm already barely surviving. I can't afford to give coffee away. Elena held up her hand. Stop thinking small. That free coffee costs you what? 80 cents in materials? But it gets someone in the door. And here's the psychology. People feel obligated to reciprocate. They'll order a pastry. They'll tip. They'll come back because you were generous. That 80-cent coffee is the cheapest marketing you'll ever do. Marcus was skeptical, but desperate enough to try anything. Strategy number 2, Elena continued. Create a membership program. Call it the Coffee Club or something better than that. You're the creative one. Charge $29 a month. Members get 20% off everything. Priority seating during busy times, 1 free pastry per week, and they can bring 1 guest who also gets their discount. Why would anyone pay $29 when they could just come in normally? Elena smiled. 3 reasons. 1, humans love feeling like insiders. The word member makes people feel special. 2, if they come in 3 times a week, they save way more than $29, so it's a no-brainer deal. 3, and this is the key. Once they pay that $29, they're committed. They'll come in more often because they've already invested. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, and it works. She kept going. But here's what you're really doing, creating predictable recurring revenue. 200 members at $29 each. That's $5,800 guaranteed. Every month before you sell a single extra coffee. That's your rent covered right there. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. Strategy number 3. Events. You need to give people reasons to come here beyond coffee. She outlined a weekly schedule. Monday nights, open mic, poetry, music, comedy. Tuesday mornings, freelancer breakfast club with reserved co-working tables. Wednesday evenings, book club. Thursday afternoons, creative hour for artists and writers. Sunday mornings, community brunch with a special menu. But I'll lose table space during those times, Marcus protested. You'll lose empty table space, Elena corrected. Those slow periods are dead money anyway. Fill them with community. People will come for the event, spend money, and then they'll come back on random days because they feel connected to this place. She looked at him seriously. Marcus, people don't need another place to buy coffee. They need a place where they feel like they belong. Give them that, and they'll pay you for it. Marcus implemented everything exactly as Elena suggested. The first week was terrifying. He put up the first coffee-free sign and waited. By day 3, word had spread. A line formed out the door. People came for the free coffee, loved the vibe, ordered lunch, and took photos for Instagram. Within 2 weeks, 150 people had signed up for the $29 membership. That's $4,350 in guaranteed monthly income, more than his rent. The Monday open mic night started small, 7 people the first week. But by week 4, there were 40 people packed in, and Marcus had to start a waiting list for performers. The Freelancer Breakfast Club became so popular that Marcus had to add a second session on Friday mornings. Remote workers were actually competing for spots because his Wi-Fi was fast and the atmosphere was perfect for getting work done. Something else happened that Marcus didn't expect. Community. People started coming not just for coffee, but to see their friends. The Monday open mic regulars became a tight-knit group. The book club members started hanging out outside of the book club. Freelancers were networking and referring clients to each other. Marcus wasn't running a coffee shop anymore. He was running a hub. 3 months after implementing Elena's strategies, Marcus looked at his numbers and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Revenue was up 340%. He had 380 active members paying $29 a month. That's $11,020 in recurring revenue. Average customer spending increased from $4.50 to $12.80 per visit. He'd hired 2 full-time baristas and a part-time event coordinator. There was money left over to actually pay himself a salary, but the number that shocked him most? Customer retention rate. 73% of people who came in once came back within 2 weeks. 6 months after meeting Elena, Marcus signed a lease on a second location across town. 1 year after their first conversation, Elena walked into Marcus's original shop. It was packed, every table full, laughter filling the air, the espresso machine humming constantly. Marcus saw her and immediately made her a cappuccino in the house. They sat at a small table in the corner. "I never properly thanked you," Marcus said. "You saved my business. You saved my life, honestly." Elena smiled warmly. "I didn't save anything. I just asked you the right questions." Marcus shook his head. "It was more than that. You showed me an entirely different way of thinking. I was so focused on the transaction. Selling coffee, making $3 profit, repeat. I never thought about the relationship. That's what most people miss," Elena said. "They think business is about selling products or services, but really, business is about solving problems and creating value for people. When you do that, money follows." She took a sip of her cappuccino. "You want to know what I learned the hard way with my first business?" Marcus leaned forward. "I owned a small bookstore in the 90s, Elena began. "It failed within 2 years. I blamed Amazon, blamed big chains, blamed customers for not supporting local businesses. But the truth, I was just selling books. That's it. Books on a shelf with a price tag. My second business, a different bookstore, different city, I ran completely differently. I hosted author readings. I created a kid's story time every Saturday morning. I had a blind date with a book promotion where we wrapped books in brown paper with just a cryptic description. I started a subscription service where members got a curated book delivered monthly based on their taste. That store thrived for 15 years before I sold it for 7 figures. Marcus's eyes widened. Elena continued. Same product, books, same market, readers, but a completely different approach. The first store sold books. The second store sold discovery, community, and experience. Books were just the medium. She looked around Marcus's bustling cafe. "You figured that out faster than I did. You're not selling coffee anymore. You're selling belongings. You're selling a reason to get out of the house. You're selling a creative outlet for that musician who performs on Monday nights. You're selling a productive workspace for those freelancers. Coffee is just what facilitates all of that." Marcus felt emotion rising in his throat. "Why did you help me, Elena? You didn't know me. You didn't owe me anything." Elena smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Because 28 years ago, someone did the same thing for me. An old man named Frank saw me crying outside my failing bookstore. He sat with me for 3 hours and completely changed how I saw business and life. He told me something I've never forgotten. The world is full of people with good ideas who fail because they think small. Your job isn't just to succeed, it's to teach the next person how to think bigger." She reached across the table and squeezed Marcus's hand. "Now that's your job too. When you see someone struggling the way you were, you'll know exactly what to do." Today, Marcus owns 5 coffee shops across the Pacific Northwest. His company does over $3 million in annual revenue. He's been featured in business magazines and podcasts. But if you ask him what he does for a living, he won't say, "I sell coffee." He'll tell you he builds communities. And that distinction? That's what separates a struggling business owner from a successful entrepreneur. The lesson Marcus learned isn't just about coffee shops. It applies to any business, any industry. Stop selling transactions. Start building relationships. Stop thinking about today's profit. Start thinking about lifetime value. Stop trying to compete on price or features. Start creating experiences people can't get anywhere else. Most importantly, understand what business you're really in. Because once you figure that out, everything changes. What business are you really in? Think about it. If you're not following Tales by Cathie, you might never see stories like this again. But if you are, congratulations. You're learning business wisdom that most people ignore. Hit subscribe and let's keep growing together.